Following a failure to launch for Star Wars Outlaws, game manufacturer Ubisoft let the other shoe drop. And that was this. They have officially delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows a full 3 months until February of 2025, almost the end of the fiscal year for Ubisoft. And the reaction from investors is almost exactly what you would expect. You're looking live right now at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as I record this of the Euronext. This is the stock exchange in Paris, France, where Ubisoft is traded natively. €9.24. This is down nearly 20% since the market opened in Paris about 2.5 hours ago. And just moments ago, activist investor AJ Investments, who had previously stated they had their own 1% stake in Ubisoft that would be pushed towards going into private equity or a sale of the company, has now expanded that support through other investors in Ubisoft to roughly 10%. And it's probably not over. But how did we get here? We've got a lot to discuss, so let's get into it. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday and Wednesday afternoon right here at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show. This all started on Tuesday when Insider Gaming broke this news. Ubisoft cancels online appearance at Tokyo Game Show. What is this, Craig? How big a deal is this?
So I've been to the Tokyo Game Show a couple times in my career, and anything that you think is big in the United States, multiply that times 4. Tokyo Game Show is the Super Bowl of video games for Japan, and Japan is a massive audience for video games.
And just about an hour or two later, Tom Henderson followed it up with this one. Ubisoft cancels press previews ahead of Assassin's Creed Shadows. In other words, Ubisoft suddenly and without warning canceled basically all of their major global press events for Assassin's Creed Shadows, a game that was set to launch in less than 60 days. And immediately, people started to wonder if the next step was going to be a major delay of this game. Later that evening, I recorded a video with Craig from SideScrollers podcast, and we had quite a wonderful discussion on this whole topic, going into a lot of theory of what could be coming. The next morning, however, after the video had released, something caught my attention. Ubisoft had scheduled their next earnings call for October 30th, 2024. And if you read just below that, the key, quiet period starting on September 30th, 2024 at the end of the day. Now, this was at about 9 a.m. or so Eastern Standard Time yesterday, Wednesday morning, September 25th. What you have to understand about a quiet period, it simply means this. This is the point of time when a company like Ubisoft has to shut up and not make any major announcements for good or bad ahead of the earnings call. In this case, it's a 30-day period. At that moment, the writing was on the wall. I gave Craig a call yesterday morning around 9:30 Eastern, and I said, "Welp, get ready, because I think Ubisoft, if they're going to delay this game, it's probably going to happen very soon. Matter of fact, it's going to happen in the next few days, because the quiet period begins on Sunday, and it seems more likely they'd be making an announcement before the end of the day on Friday." And not but a couple of hours later, sure enough, Ubisoft released a public statement updating the guidance for their total fiscal year sales, revenues, profits, the whole ball of wax, including the fact that they were delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows by a full 3 months. The company now expects net bookings of around 1.95 billion euros. That's sharply down from what they had previously projected for the fiscal year. And around break-even operating income, meaning we think before today, we were telling you for months that we were going to make money this year. Now we're telling you we think we might break even. Okay? This is where this has gone. And we still have almost 6 months of the fiscal year left. They're projecting the fiscal year to go from profitability 6 months from now to we hope we might break even. The revised targets are mainly a reflection of decisions taken for Assassin's Creed Shadows, which they simultaneously announced the delay of, and guess what? A softer than expected launch for Star Wars Outlaws. And it's not just softer, it's shit. It continues. Assassin's Creed Shadows will now be released 14 February 2025. While the game is feature complete, the learnings from the Star Wars Outlaws release led us to provide additional time to further polish the title. Ron, I know you're not a gamer. I'm going to read that sentence again. Tell me what strikes you. Give me your legal opinion on what this means. They're basically saying Star Wars Outlaws here was really bad, and we're really scared about releasing Assassin's Creed now. We need more time.
That's a learning. That's a learning.
That's a learning. Yeah, yeah. The learnings from Star Wars Outlaws. What we learned was it sucked. This is the public statement from Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed that was posted on their X page. It says, "Dear players, Assassin's Creed Shadows is a dream project, finally bringing the series to feudal Japan with many features developed with our community in mind." And, well, we can debate the merits of that statement. But as such, we've made the decision to postpone the release date to 14 February 2025. The game will release on a broad range of platforms, including Steam, at launch. Additionally, pre-orders will be refunded, and all future pre-orders will be granted the first expansion pack for free. We understand the decision will come as disappointing news, especially to those who've been waiting patiently for an Assassin's Creed game inspired by feudal Japan. But we sincerely believe this is in the best interest of the game and ultimately your experience as a player. But there was another memo, not to investors or made public to players, that was out there yesterday, and once again, Insider Gaming got their hands on it. Once again, an exclusive from Tom Henderson here. Yves Guillemot, internal memo to staff amid company struggles. Now, Yves Guillemot is the CEO of Ubisoft. He and his family collectively own between 13 and 15% of Ubisoft outstanding shares. In fact, 5 members of the Guillemot family sit on the board of directors of Ubisoft. "Dear all," says Guillemot to staff, "we just issued a press release announcing our revised financial targets for the current fiscal year. First, Star Wars Outlaws initial sales proved softer than expected, despite solid ratings from players that recognized the game's faithful transcription of the original trilogy's essence and richness." Not really. You see, if Star Wars had really captured the original trilogy's essence, as Yves Guillemot wants to put on airs about, well, then it would have actually starred Han Solo as the main character, a smuggler in this game, which it is a game about smugglers, instead of a low-rent, bad female ripoff of Han Solo. It's like we said before, the Walt Disney Company didn't pay $4 billion to not use Han Solo, or at least that's not how it was sold to Disney shareholders out there. Maybe Ubisoft could have just done their own thing with this and actually used Han Solo, but I suspect they did what Disney wanted because, let's face it, Disney owns the copyright to Star Wars and Ubisoft is just along for the ride. Or maybe people at Ubisoft were more than happy just to go along with this idea of not using Han Solo in this game. Now, that wasn't the only thing that killed Star Wars Outlaws, but it certainly didn't help matters in the least. He goes on to say, while players have praised the sense of detail and the beauty of the graphics, this is Star Wars Outlaws, the effectiveness of the reputation system and endearing characters like Nyx, some also noted areas of improvement. The development teams are already hard at work on this, focusing on certain issues, mechanics, more frequent checkpoints. Basically, what Yves is saying is that they're going back in and doing a lot of fixes to Star Wars Outlaws right now and hoping that game sales will continue and maybe bolster again as we approach things like Black Friday and the Christmas shopping season. Good luck with that, Yves. In today's ultra-competitive market, players expect extraordinary experiences and ultra-polished games on day one. Or maybe they just want them to work and not suck. We need to continue to improve when it comes to fine-tuning our games and delivering outstanding gameplay. This is what will enable Ubisoft to, again, create the best games in the industry. And it seems like Yves Guillemot is admitting there that he knows that Ubisoft has really fallen far. Consequently, we've decided to delay Assassin's Creed Shadows to February 14th, 2025. The game is already playable and of high quality, and has all the features the team wanted to integrate in this ambitious experience. Beyond the first important short-term actions that I've outlined above, the company's top management will focus on accelerating the improvement of our production, communication, and publishing practices and processes in close collaboration with all these teams, with the objective to put players at the heart of all of our decisions. We will regularly update you on the progress we're making. Lastly, I'd like to address the recent polarized coverage around our creative choices. We are an entertainment company, and as such, our objective is not to endorse any specific agenda. Our mission has always been to entertain players and enrich their lives with original and memorable experiences that resonate with a global audience. It seems to me that if they wanted to avoid some type of either specific agenda or appeal to the widest global audience possible, again, you could not have made two games more in opposition to that idea in the ridiculous nature of them. Again, making a game about the smugglers in the world of Star Wars and not using Han Solo when it's supposed to be set in an era where Han Solo is very much alive. And you go so far as to make a female character that kind of looks like and acts like and certainly dresses like and is even a smuggler just like Han Solo, but it's better because she's a female version of Han Solo. Again, this was a huge planning and creative mistake on the part of the Walt Disney Company, Lucasfilm, and yes, Ubisoft. And then you've got Assassin's Creed Shadows. Again, a game set in feudal Japan where you've made a 6-foot-tall black man, a samurai, the lead character of this game. Honestly, what were you thinking? And people often ask the question how certain companies can continue to make such ridiculous mistakes like this again and again, and especially when these projects cost hundreds of millions of dollars. How is it they don't go under? Well, they do get impacted when they fail their customers, but some more so than others. So how is it Ubisoft is having this much problems, but a company like Disney seems to be much more insulated from its own failures that, ironically, are just connected to Ubisoft today thanks to Star Wars Outlaws? Well, let's remind folks of a few facts here.
Disney can cross-subsidize from other business lines. It can persist in that fallacy longer. But all the DEI stuff and all the equity stuff, all that garbage is premised on this idea that we have enough to go around and results and the traditional business metrics don't matter because money just grows on trees.
Ubisoft, like most of these companies, are not capable of subsidizing failure to the extent that Disney has been able to because of the largesse of where most of their OI comes from, their operating income and the profit. And that's from the parks because they're high margin stuff. I mean, Disney's got the highest park prices now they've ever had, and they're going to keep going up. And this is why attendance keeps falling. This is why they're guiding towards the next 2 quarters of softening park
economics.
Yeah.
I mean, this is,
price elasticity, Ron.
Yeah, exactly.
And when it comes to the state of affairs in Ubisoft, other content creators in the gaming space out there seem to be just as concerned. All right, Endymion, so the news has dropped that Ubisoft has, in fact, as we kind of suspected over the last 24, 48 hours, that Assassin's Creed Shadows is getting delayed. There was a lot of funny stuff in what came out today. It's more than just that, but just your initial thoughts when you saw this happen.
They're screwed. There's nowhere else to put it. Now they're missing the lucrative holiday season, so their investors are going to be even more mad than normal. Obviously, the new Ghost of Tsushima sequel's coming out, Ghost of Yote, however you pronounce it. That game is going to cannibalize the sales of Shadows if anybody wants to even get a game that's a samurai game. Mm-hmm. So they're missing their window for when the game would technically be relevant. And honestly, I think them waiting now to release it when they are is actually even more of a worse idea, because they have so much competition in that same window. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ubisoft ends up eventually in 2025 pretty much just, filing for bankruptcy and liquidating everything and selling it off. I mean, there's nothing else I can really see happening to them, because after this game, what do they have that comes out next? If this game doesn't do well, they're pretty much screwed, and I just don't see them recovering from it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ubisoft just closes down.
A little over 4 years ago, Ubisoft was trading at nearly 90 euros. 90 euros. And 4 years and 7 months later, here we are, 9 euros. That means that the company has shed 90% of its total market capitalization. And right now, as this continues on, this is going to make Ubisoft worth probably less than $1 billion on the open market by the end of trading today. Things like that lead to this. Ubisoft activist investor says it now has support of 10% of shareholders in the management tussle. An activist investor pushing for the sale of Assassin's Creed maker Ubisoft has gathered support from 10% of the French video game publisher's shareholders. AJ Investments, which itself has less than a 1% stake in Ubisoft, said it was in talks with private equity firms for its push. We call on management of Ubisoft to allow the sale of the company to third parties or private equity firms at a fair price. AJ Investments did not name the investors in its letter and declined a Reuters request for the names of said investors. The move comes weeks after AJ Investments called for a CEO change at Ubisoft, and it urged it to go private or to be sold. Ubisoft, of course, has made no comment on this, but as I stated earlier, I think that 10% is going to continue to expand, and it's going to happen probably pretty quickly after today. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Yves Guillemot may not be the CEO there anymore before Assassin's Creed actually manages to release in February, if, of course, it still manages to release in February. And what about that February date? Well,
they moved Assassin's Creed Shadows to Black History Month, which I thought was very interesting.
This is just the business brain in me going off. The fact that Ubisoft is pushing back the release of Assassin's Creed until February. I didn't even think about the Black History Month aspect of it at first. What jumped out at me is this. That gives them an additional 3 months to rework whatever they perceive as being wrong with this game, number one. And they're probably going to have people working around the clock on this thing for the next 90 days. The other part of it is, by pushing it back 3 months but not later, they give themselves a comfortable 90 days maybe in their mind to work on it, but also, and I think this is the most important thing in Demian, what you have to understand about Ubisoft is their fiscal year ends on March 31st. Part of the reason, or the biggest reason, that they're going to force this out in mid-February is so that they have a solid 45 days before the end of the fiscal year to make as many game sales with Assassin's Creed as they can to try to just break even for the year. I think that might be the most compelling factor for the release date. I think they wanted to maybe have pushed it out further, but I think if they did, whatever we're going to see at 3 a.m. on the Paris Stock Exchange when it opens, 3 a.m. Eastern time here in the U.S., I think would be even inexorably worse if they had pushed this off into mid to late March or even into April after the close of the fiscal year. It's a mess, kids. It's now 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the U.S., and it's now down 20%. And maybe it will fall through the floor of even 9 euros and start pecking away at the 8s. Who knows? But it's precariously close right now. And it's pretty much exactly what we thought would happen. This is not something that's going to go away anytime soon, and Ubisoft has a lot to clean up in its own house, if it even can. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.